The Crew 2 is now almost 4 years old, yet the developers have stuck with it as it's still getting updates to this day. In this video, we'll take a look at everything this game has to offer in its current state to see whether it's worth buying in 2022 and beyond. Now, the Crew 2 sets itself apart in a few big ways, the first of which is through its racing diversity. To call it a driving game would be a massive understatement, because almost every vehicle type you could imagine is here, from planes to boats and hovercrafts. There are 12 racing disciplines, and each of these has their own set of vehicles and their own races, which should give you an idea of just the sheer amount of content here. This massive diversity means that there's loads to do, whether you prefer racing in the air, on the ground, or would rather do skill-based events like aerobatics. The game does have a bit of a backstory and narrative to accompany this, however it is very weak. What this does mean though is a greater sense of freedom, as after the first couple of hours you're pretty much left to do whatever you want. Talking about that sense of freedom, this is really headed up by the map, which is by far the best we've seen in any recent racing game. The Crew 2 is of course open world, and it's set in the USA, but the whole of it. Now, while it is a very cleverly condensed version of the country, it's still an absolutely vast map that will take you at least half an hour to drive across. It's complete with a ton of pretty accurate locations with all the major cities, as well as landmarks such as the Statue of Liberty, White House, and even Area 51. There's all sorts of landscapes too, from huge deserts to salt flats and mountains. When you're not in a race, you can roam this map completely freely, not just in cars but also in boats and planes, allowing you to explore every corner of it. Even having played hundreds of hours of this game, I can still find new locations that I've never seen before, something that definitely couldn't be said about any Forza or Need for Speed game. The benefits of having a map this big are pretty significant too. Of course, the sense of freedom and exploration is absolutely amazing, but it really benefits the general gameplay too. No two races will ever feel too similar, and being able to race along recognisable locations like the Grand Canyon, for example, adds a lot to the experience. It really does feel like multiple games in one too. While other titles might try and shove, say, off-roading into a map designed for just road cars, in the Crew 2 it feels like every type of racing has its own bespoke, well-designed area. Unsurprisingly though, there is one downside to having a map of this scale, and that's the graphics. Because of the huge quantity of game assets and textures needed to fill a map of this size, it's understandable that a compromise on quality had to be made. Now, the graphics aren't too bad to be fair, and thanks to the dynamic time and weather you can get some really nice scenes, especially when in photo mode. On raw gameplay quality though, the Crew 2 is just nowhere near as realistic as Forza Horizon 5 or even 4. It's probably more on par with Forza Horizon 3, which came out 2 years before it. On console you'll also be capped at 30 frames a second, which is a bit underwhelming, especially if you're on next gen, but this is set to change thanks to updates. As I mentioned, it's still actively supported by the devs, so graphics are set to improve. Quantity over quality is a theme also present within the cars, as there are well over 400 vehicles spanning all the different categories. I mentioned hovercrafts, boats and planes earlier, but there are also motorbikes, monster trucks, demolition derby cars, as well as rally, GT and F1, even a helicopter. The diversity here is really impressive and has a massive impact on the gameplay, which we'll talk about later, but it has had a more negative hit on the handling and the sounds, as you will notice that many cars handle and sound pretty similar. This doesn't apply to everything, and handling is still being updated, but it's something to be aware of. The customization is also quite limited for most vehicle categories, with the exceptions being the road cars. This was a bit of a disappointment at first, however it's meant that the physical car customization is actually very good. There are tons of options for swapping out bumpers, side skirts and wings, and most cars also have wide body options available. A standout feature for me was the inclusion of interior customization. You can change everything from the colour and finish of the seats to the material on the dashboard, which if you play in the first person view a lot is really nice and something we haven't seen in other big games. Sadly though, the performance customization is quite a different story. The only way to make your cars or any vehicle faster is by equipping new parts. These parts include things like your brakes, gearbox and suspension, however they're really just upgrade cards where the number on them decides how good they are. Now, this system could be okay, however you earn parts so often that the performance increase coming from them is really small and usually unnoticeable, making upgrading your car quite underwhelming. Having said that, there is a big performance difference between a stock car and one at max level, and since you earn parts from doing races, it is a good way of motivating players and it facilitates some good progression. Talking of progression, I think the Crew 2 has actually done a really good job, considering this is often the downfall of open world races. One component of this is that cars are really expensive when looked at in terms of how long it's going to take you to earn the credits needed to buy them. This means that the early game is pretty slow, but buying your first cars is super satisfying. Also, when there's 12 categories to choose and buy your first vehicles for, it really does prolong that early game excitement feeling, often the best bit of the game for some people. There also isn't any free car lottery where you could, I don't know, instantly get the best car in the game, Forza. However, there are microtransactions, so you win some, you lose some. You can, however, get free cards in a much more controlled manner by levelling up your icon level. You do this by gaining followers, the game's main progression metric that fits in with the social media rising star backstory thing. Every 100 icon levels you get a free car, boat or plane, and they're all pretty good. They're also the same for all players, so it becomes a bit of a status symbol as they can't be bought with credits. Facilitating the endgame progression are then the rival events, which have been really well thought out. All of those 12 racing categories are split between 4 overarching families, and if you complete more than 50% of the events within a family, you unlock a rival event. If you win this race, you get the ultimate vehicle, which for street racing is a McLaren P1, pro racing an Aston Martin Vulcan, freestyle is a really nice hovercraft, and off-roading you get a freaking helicopter. This provides a really good, more long-term goal for players because you need to complete enough events and also make your car fast enough to win the finales. The online in The Crew 2 is another pretty well done element. You can race against other players in so-called live battles, where you can matchmake to find a group and then vote which races to do. How long it takes you to find a lobby will vary depending on your platform, but the player base is alright. For me, the co-op multiplayer is the highlight though, as you can invite up to 3 friends into your crew and then do any event with them. For all races you have to get up into the top 3 or higher for a maximum reward, but in co-op, as long as one person reaches this, the rest of the group also gets credited as if they won the race or got into the top 3, whatever the requirement was. You can of course free roam with other people, however it's a bit disappointing that there can only be 8 players per server, not a lot considering the size of the map. Having said that, free roaming with a small group of friends can be a huge amount of fun due to the game's awesome map and of course the vehicle variety. Now to finish off, here are 5 of my favourite game features that deserve a short mention. Number 1 is the quick swap mechanic, which lets you swiftly switch between a preset land, water and air vehicle. It makes free roam gameplay a lot of fun and avoids you having to go through a menu to change cars every time. This leads on nicely to number 2, which is the live extreme events. In these special events, you switch between 3 different vehicle types mid-race. You could start in a hypercar, switch to a monster truck and then finish the race in a boat, and you're not going to be finding that in any other game. Number 3 are the live summits, which are weekly online competitions. Every week we get a new set of events, and completing events from the given set earns you points. These points put you on an online leaderboard, and from that you can earn credits, parts and even limited edition cars, depending on whether you make it to the bronze, silver, gold or platinum tiers. Number 4 is the apartment, because believe it or not, The Crew 2 actually lets you get out of your car, at least in certain places. One of these is your house, which you can walk around completely freely. It even has multiple floors to display your cars, planes and boats, and you can choose which cars to put where and even get inside to rev the engines. As you level up, so does the apartment, with the interior getting nicer and more floors unlocking. A really nice touch. Now number 5 is the one other time that you can walk around freely, and that's at the HQs. Each vehicle family has its own space, which is where you can buy the cars. You can also test drive the cars from here, which is a really nice feature I wish more games had. Overall then, The Crew 2 is arguably the most unique and varied open world racer out there. Its variety has so many benefits for the gameplay, and while its graphics and handling are inherent weak spots, they're far from bringing the game down. The fact that it's still being updated with new content such as races and cars is only another reason to buy, and due to its age you can pick it up pretty inexpensively too. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you have enjoyed it or found it useful, then a like or even a sub would be absolutely amazing. If you have any comments, drop them down below and I'll try to get back to you. But that's everything, so thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.